Okay, my wonderful, wonderful friends, it's Roger from Roger's Mudfossil University with Roger's Shocker du Jour. Now, what is the shocker of the day? Well, I've been watching them trying to justify all of the mud fossil things that I've discovered, and giants and the dragon and all of these things, and I'm seeing it sort of slowly fester up in the Science Channel and history and all this stuff. Now, they're trying to figure out how did this flood happen. It's all over the world. They talked about it. Velikovsky had unimpeachable evidence from everywhere around the world in the museums and the libraries and carved in walls and scrolls and tablets and everywhere talked about the same thing, a gigantic flood. And somebody saved themselves with a giant boat. Now, there's also statements that say that it had never rained before the flood. And they said to Noah, what are you, insane, building a boat? We got plenty of water, but it's all on, it has never rained. Why would you think there's going to be a flood? And he said, well, somebody told me to build a boat, and that's what I'm going to do. And he built a boat. He had, I guess, 100 years or something to build the boat. I forget what it is. I'm not going to get into any details about not knowing that. But I do think I have something to add to the fact of how the earth could have not had any rain whatsoever and then all of a sudden been just nothing but a ball of water. And I will explain that. It's called condensation. And its condensation is a change in the state of water from a gas or vapor into a liquid. It happens when vapor in a warm air encounters a cool surface. Think about that. Remember this again. Warm air encounters a cool surface. Do you know what our outer layer of atmosphere is? 2,700 degrees. All right, just let's think about this now. Warm air encounters a cool surface. Now, it generally happens in that condition. Now, condensation doesn't need a solid surface to take place. It can happen in the air. That's what causes rain. It occurs when a warm pocket of water vapor encounters colder gases down around the core. I've talked about the spinning disk of the Earth's gases scrubbing the particles in space, creating exactly this condition, and in one day, rain. All right, we're going to listen to this. Again, fair use, free user. Jade Vine, Metamorphosis Ovid. He wrote of the creation of the earth and all of these things. Now listen to this. This is literally an instruction manual how to build an earth. And it started as a disk. And he molded it into a sphere. Just listen to what it has to say.
Metamorphoses by Ovid, Book 1. Changes of shape, new forms are the theme which my spirit impels me, now to recite. Inspire me, O gods.
I just want to tell you, the first statements in this, the prologue to this, he says, I intend to speak of creatures turned into the landscape by means of violence. They actually took and made people into the land, or creatures, all kinds of things. Anyway, here goes.
It is you who have even transformed my art, and spin me a thread from the world's beginning down to my own lifetime in one continuous poem. Before the earth and the sea and the all-encompassing heaven came into being, the whole of nature displayed but a single face which men have called chaos, a crude, unstructured mass.
To me, that is nothing more than all the electrons buzzing around trying to find each other to start to congeal and spinning in a circle.
Nothing but weight without motion, a general conglomeration of matter composed of disparate, incompatible elements. No Titan the sun god was present to cast his rays on the universe, nor Phoebe the moon to replenish her horns and grow to her fullness. No earth suspended in equilibrium, wrapped in its folding mantle of air, nor Amphitrite, the goddess of ocean, to stretch her sinuous arms all around the earth's long coastline. Although the land and the sea and the sky were involved in the great mass, no one could stand on the land or swim in the waves of the sea.
All right, at this point, it's basically a gas giant where all of these molecules are sort of festering.
And the sky had no light. None of the elements kept its shape, and all were in conflict inside one body, the cold with the hot, the wet with the dry, the soft with the hard, and weight with the weightless. The God who is nature was kinder, and brought this dispute to a settlement. He severed the earth from the sky, and he parted the sea from the land. He separated translucent space from the cloudier atmosphere. He disentangled the elements so as to set them free from the heap of darkness, then gave them their separate places and tied them down in a peaceful concordance.
This, to my mind, is the peaceful concordance right here. In other words, at certain quantities of electrons, you have what we call elements and atoms. However, helium is not one giant proton and one tiny electron. It is all electrons. That gives it a dipole nature, which gives it a push to shove, keeps one electron at bay from the nucleus. The nucleus is just a ball of electrons. That's all it is. And I show this many ways and many times. And I can almost prove it by the light experiments. So let's continue on. So now we have a mass of chaos. Soon he's going to separate the waters from above from the waters below. Here goes.
Fire flashed out as a weightless force in the vaulted heaven and found its rightful place at the height of the firmament.
All right, now where is the firmament? That is where our atmosphere scrubbing around scrubs the atmosphere of the universe. And that is where we're going to have lightning, because we have electronic particles that are scrubbing the electronic particles out here. Push to shove. Lightning, exactly what we have in our atmosphere now. 50 lightning strikes a second around the Earth, because our Earth is scrubbing our atmospheric particles, just like it did then, to the atmospheric particles in space, which are also pushers and shovers, and the product is excess electrons discharging.
Air came next in position and lightness. Earth was denser than these, attracted the larger particles, and sank through the downward thrust of its weight. In the nether region came water, confining the solid disk in its liquid embrace.
The solid disk. So in other words, it's talking about a flat disk, solid disk in its liquid embrace. So there's some form of land and some form of water.
When the god, whichever one of the gods, had divided the substance of chaos and ordered it thus in its different constituent members. First, in order that Earth should hang suspended in perfect symmetrical balance, he molded it into the shape of a great sphere.
All right, the only way he could have molded it into the shape of a sphere if it was something other than a sphere to begin with, which would have been the disk that everybody's been attacking me about. You know, the Earth is round now. I'm just sorry. That's just a fact. I don't want to fight about that, and I just keep getting attacked over and over. I don't have any dispute about anybody feeling the way they want to feel, but I'm not happy about being attacked because I won't submit to that way of feeling. I see the space station. I'm sorry. That's what I see. This talks about solving all of these problems. It was a disk, and now it's a ball.
Next, he commanded the seas to scatter and swell as they fronted the blast of the winds.
That's exactly what happens now. That's what waves are. As the earth spins and the water swishes against the oncoming, it causes waves and tides and so forth.
Surrounding the earth with its circle of shore. To the ocean he added the springs, huge standing pools, and the lakes, and rivers to wind downstream as their sloping banks confined them. These, in their various places, may be absorbed by the earth itself, or travel as far as the sea, where they enter the broad expanse of more open water and beat on the shore instead of their banks. Then he commanded the plains to extend and the valleys to sink, the woods to be decked in their leaves, and the rock-faced mountains to soar. And just as the sky is cut into zones, with 2 to northward, 2 to the south, and a 5th which burns with more heat than the others.
That's exactly what happens. On the northern and southern latitudes, you're spinning less intensively. The big ball in the center hits the hardest. So that's where it creates the most intense heat. And eventually, the heated atmosphere out here, which has moisture in it, but no real rain yet because there's not enough pressure coming in. It keeps scrubbing. It gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And then it creates just like anything in a sealed can, it explodes. Well, it pushes and shoves and pushes and shoves and pushes and shoves. And sooner or later, it's what's called condensation. Boom, it rains. Noah's flood.